You're good to go.
Great, thanks, Jill. Okay, let's get going. So I'm going to call this meeting to order today on July 28th. We're going to start with a roll call, have everybody introduce themselves. I'm going to go around and just, say your name and turn your sound and video if possible on so that people can see who you are and hear you. First is Patrick Connor, the vice chair.
Hi, Jenny, I'm here. I don't know if you can see me. I'm also getting a message saying my internet connection is unstable. And I don't know if that's me or you, but hopefully I can be here the whole time.
Okay, we hear you and we see you right now. So fingers crossed for the rest of the time. Marisha has sent her regrets for today. The next on our roll call is Lois York. I actually don't see Lois on here. Okay, we'll give her a few minutes and then we'll circle back to see if she joins us. Sandra Nowlin. Oh, Sandra, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm here. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. David Atchison. I believe we are also missing David. Okay, it's no problem. We'll circle back to see if he's joined us. Cassandra.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassandra Backer-Dax, joining you from my work office at the Association of Industry Sector Councils, and I'm here till 5 or about 10 past 5, and then get booted out of my building, so I have to go at that point.
We're hoping it won't be too long of a meeting today. It's a, mediocre July day. Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Digdon.
Thanks. Luke?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Jennifer?
Hello, I'm here.
Great. Hi, Jennifer. Councillor Stoddard?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And Councillor Cuddle? I don't actually see. I don't see Patty's name here. Okay, so we'll circle back. I don't think we've added anybody. Lois York, you're not here still, are you? No. David Atchison? Nope. And Councillor Cuddle. Okay, so we're missing an additional 3, but we do still have quorum, so we will move on. The next item is approval of the minutes. There are some minor errors or typos that the clerk's office found in these minutes. I think I'll read those amendments out and then we can approve them with those amendments. So under the call to order, it should read at 5:28, the chair was advised the committee no longer had quorum and any decision items would need to be deferred until next meeting or until quorum could be achieved. So that the minutes will have to reflect that. Also, Marisha's name was misspelled, so if that could be corrected in the minutes, that would be great. Do I need I need a formal motion, but do I need it still to include with the amendments? Like, do I need somebody to say that?
Correct. If somebody could read them out just for the record would be perfect.
Sure. Okay, if somebody could, well, I'm the only one that has it, so I guess, but I can't read it out. Okay.
Sure, if you either want to step down as chair or I can put it in the chat if somebody else would like to make the motion with the amendment.
Oh, sure. If you could put it in the chat, that'd be great.
And I can read that out if you'd like, Jenny. It's Cassandra.
Great, Cassandra.
I'm just watching the chat, waiting for the exact wording to come up.
Yeah, no problem.
So I move to accept the minutes with one amendment, that at 5:28, the chair was advised that the committee no longer had quorum and any decision items would need to be deferred until next meeting or until quorum could be achieved.
Excellent. And a seconder, please. Councillor Stoddard, thank you. All those in favor, please turn microphones on and say aye.
Did
Aye.
we need,
I,
All those opposed? Oh, sorry, Leslie, are you, sorry.
sorry, I was trying to signal, didn't we need to correct Cassandra's name as well?
Oh, Marisha's name. Yeah,
Immersion,
that's true.
sorry.
That's okay.
I will move again. So I move that we accept the minutes as presented with the edits to include the correction of Marisha's name. And at 5:28, the chair was advised that the committee no longer had quorum and any decision items would need to be deferred until next meeting or until quorum could be achieved.
I still second.
Wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Contrary minded? Okay, motion carries. Thanks, everybody. Next on our agenda is approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. There are none, so I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented. And yes, that is what I need.
It's Cassandra. I will move that we approve the order of business as presented.
Thank you.
I'll
Seconder,
second.
please. Thank you, Councillor Stoddard. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I,
Those contrary minded? Excellent, motion carries. Business arising out of the minutes is item 4. There was none. Next is our call for declaration of conflict of interests. Does anybody have any conflicts of interest to declare as a result of an agenda item? I'll ask again, does anybody have any conflicts of interest to declare? Okay, seeing none, that's great. Moving on to our agenda. So consideration of deferred business, which is of course why we are here today. We had a rather long meeting in June. And we're going to be getting to our deferred business today. So first is item 6.1, case H00507, request to include 1600 Summer Street, Halifax in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality. The motion on the floor we can read afterwards, but it is, I will read it out just for the information of people. That the Heritage Advisory Committee recommended that Halifax Regional Council set a date for a heritage hearing to consider the inclusion of the subject property in the Registry of Heritage Property for Halifax Regional Municipality, and 2, approve the request to include 1600 Summer Street, Halifax in the Registry of Heritage Property for Halifax Regional Municipality as shown on map 1 of the May 17, 2021 report as a municipal heritage area under the Heritage Property Act. We're going to have a staff presentation from Elizabeth Cushing now.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Elizabeth Cushing, and I'm a heritage planning researcher with HRM. And welcome to the long-awaited presentation on H00507, request to include 1600 Summer Street, known as Camp Hill Cemetery, in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality. So this was initiated by a third-party application from the Halifax Military Preservation Society. Camp Hill Cemetery is situated on the block bound by Veterans Memorial Lane to the north, Summer Street to the east, Spring Garden Road to the south, and Roby Street to the west in downtown Halifax. The subject property contains a cemetery that was designed in the rural cemetery style that has been used as an active burial ground since 1844. So under the Heritage Property Program, all registration applications for heritage properties are evaluated by the Heritage Advisory Committee using either the evaluation criteria for the registration of heritage sites or the evaluation criteria for the registration of heritage buildings. So the heritage site evaluation criteria focuses on the broader use and cultural associations of a property over time and places less attention on any structures that may exist on the property. Examples of properties that have been evaluated and registered under the heritage site criteria include the former Halifax Memorial Library and the Halifax Public Gardens. The maximum number of points under which a heritage site is evaluated is 70, whereas with the heritage building evaluation criteria, the maximum is 100. So properties evaluated under this set of criteria will be formally designated a heritage area under the Heritage Property Act, which implies the same legal protection as a heritage property. So due to the continuous use of the subject site as a burial ground and the absence of any original or noteworthy structures, staff are recommending that the Camp Hill Cemetery be evaluated as a heritage site. The evaluation criteria and scoring for a heritage site are broken down into the following 4 categories. So should the HAC score the site with 35 or more points, a positive recommendation will be forwarded to Regional Council. So in 1830, the old burying ground on Barrington Street was reaching capacity, and the city began to seek out a new burial ground. Legislation enabling a new city cemetery was developed in 1833. Originally, the city wanted to build this on the land that's currently occupied by the QE2 Camp Hill Veterans Memorial Building, which was then known as Windmill Hill. However, the military opposed it due to its close proximity to Citadel Hill. The city exchanged the Windmill Hill site with the military-owned property at Fort Massey. However, this was later deeded to the Roman Catholic Church for their burial ground in 1843. Subsequently, in 1844, the city established a Camp Hill Cemetery on a 16-acre portion of the South Common lands, and the cemetery opened that same year. The Camp Hill Cemetery, along with the Windmill Hill lands deeded to the military, is depicted in William Gossip's 1859 plan of Halifax Common, which is shown here on the screen. The cemetery was divided into sections for different groups, such as St. George's Parish, pauper burials, and the colored section. So Camp Hill Cemetery has been an active burial ground for 177 years, from 1844 to present. Camp Hill Cemetery is municipally owned and operated, with gravestone management services provided through HRM's Park and Rec staff. The cemetery continues to be an active burial ground with plans to construct a columbarium at the center, and registration of the property will not impact the continued operation of the cemetery. So for its continuous use as an active burial ground for the past 177 years, a score between 20 and 25 is recommended.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just gonna say, well, like last time, if you guys want to discuss as we go through each category. And
yeah, I think that works well for us. It helps us keep whatever information we just got fresh. Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor. Staff are recommending 100+ years for a 170-year-old cemetery. So anybody want to make any suggestions? Oh, we're talkative today.
Hi, it's Jennifer Hines. I would say, just given the historic value of the site and the age, given the fact that it's also a continuation of the original burying grounds further downtown, I would be very comfortable putting it at 25.
Okay,
This is Leslie. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, either.
I would agree with that too, Sandra Nowlin.
And I would agree as well.
Same with me, Patrick.
I would agree as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like we're going to go with 25 points then.
perfect, thank you. In terms of historical importance, Camp Hill Cemetery was designed in the rural cemetery style, a movement that took place in the early to mid 19th century. The style is characterized by cemeteries being located outside of the city core with elements of an English landscape that's to be reminiscent of a park. The style requires cemeteries to be heavily cultivated, so this would include fences or hedges, belts of trees, green grass, flowers, and shrubs to provide for security and seclusion. The cemetery entrance often incorporated hardware and plantings with evergreens and deciduous trees throughout the grounds. Flowering shrubs and flowers planted in groupings were also recommended. And it appears to be the earliest known example of the rural cemetery style in Canada, followed closely by Mount Herman Cemetery in Quebec City, which was established in 1849. The character-defining elements of Camp Hill Cemetery include its representation of the rural cemetery movement through its overall landscape design and features, including mature tree canopy and horticultural plantings, black iron ornamental fences and granite posts marking 3 entryways, originally designed by Star Manufacturing Co. The layout and configuration of the gravel pathways that traverse the site and connect 3 entryways to surrounding areas, engraved markers of various styles, designs, and ages, and pedestrian connectivity to other public open spaces of the Halifax Public Gardens National Historic Site and Wanderers Ground. Well, Camp Hill Cemetery, of course, also has historical associations with the thousands buried there. Only about 5,000 of the burial sites are marked, as less fortunate and marginalized members of the public were not always provided with grave markers, and the inconsistent record keeping over the decades means that there are many thousands more people buried in the cemetery than are currently documented and or identified by a grave marker. However, some known historical associations include, but are not limited to, Viola Desmond, members of the No. 2 Construction Battalion, Joseph Howe, the 4th Premier of Nova Scotia, Enos Collins, Halifax merchant, shipowner, and banker, Fathers of Confederation, William Henry and Jonathan McKelly, Sir William Young, Alexandra Keith, and passengers of the Titanic, and soldiers and veterans from both world wars. So Camp Hill Cemetery has strong historical associations with the broader community and with the thousands of Haligonians buried there, including locally, provincially, and nationally significant persons. So as a result, a score between 20 and 25 is recommended.
Okay, I'm going to open the floor back up. Staff are once again recommending 20 to 25 or 20 to 24. Jennifer, go right ahead.
I would say again, I'd be very comfortable at 25, given the folks that we know that were buried there and that we don't know that were buried there. It's an intricate part of Halifax's and the province's history.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that? Leslie?
I'd second what, yes, I'd second that what Jennifer just said, sorry.
No problem.
I would second that as well. Just due to the historic information that Elizabeth gave us, like it's #1 in Canada. That's like unbelievable. I mean, that in itself, and the fact that we have so many important and legendary people in that graveyard. I wouldn't give it anything less than a 25.
I don't think there's any reason not to give it 25.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty resounding 25 then. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you. In terms of degree of intactness, according to the Committee of Camp Hill Cemetery records, several changes were made to the site and the design and layout over time, including the circular pathway was removed for additional burial plots. Decorative features such as large concrete flower stands no longer exist and flower beds have been removed. There originally was a wooden fence that surrounded the cemetery, and this has been replaced by wrought iron gates that were designed by Star Manufacturing Company, the plans for which are on the left side of the screen. There are some paved areas of pathways which were originally covered in ashes or gravel. A path to the east of the Roby Street gate and another path near the Summer Street entrance have been closed to make room for more lots. And built elements such as the office, keeper's lodge, and washroom facilities have been demolished. So there have been moderate changes to the integrity of Camp Hill Cemetery. As mentioned earlier, a columbarium is planned to be constructed near the center of the cemetery. However, this will not adversely impact the site's integrity and pathway circulation. And it provides interment options and a future source of revenue to ensure that the continued maintenance of the cemetery over time. So for its overall moderate level of integrity, a score of between 1 and 5 is recommended.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Anybody have any suggestions here?
It's Cassandra. I would say 5. It's too bad it can't be in the higher category, but I respect that categorization. I'm wondering if the gardens were removed at some point to make room for more plots. The gardens may have been trimmed back as more space was needed. So I would recommend a 5.
I would agree with that, Sam.
Sandra, Jennifer?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. I think a lot of the things that were done for the changes were done to allow for more space for the cemetery to grow. So I don't know that they were really changes made to modernize it or to, for any other effective use than to just allow more people to be buried in it, because the use was so long. So the use went over has been going on for so many years. So I would be very tempted to actually, because of that, bump it to the next category. And I would actually be quite comfortable putting it at a 7 or 8. Again, playing devil's advocate, so just wanting to know what the rest of the group thinks.
Okay, anybody have any thoughts on that?
I was just thinking as well that some of the things that they did do, besides making room for more burial plots, was some of the things like replacing the wooden fence with a wrought iron fence. It wouldn't be the original fence, but it would definitely be something that was an improvement. I mean, a wooden fence eventually would fall down and look pretty ratty. Not ratty, but kind of worn. And just the fact that they did make some improvements, and like was just said, some of the flowers were cut back again or removed to make room for more burial plots. So, it makes me think it might be worth a little more than a 5 because they made so many changes.
Okay, I'm taking the point here, both of you. I'm wondering if and maybe this is a question for staff, if we're kind of tied to the language in these two. I mean, I know that the committee can kind of decide to go kind of anywhere we want, but we might have trouble making a largely intact with the presence of original features or structures argument too high into that, maybe is what I would suggest. I'm not sure we want to go too far into that because of the features that Elizabeth outlined for us that aren't still present.
Jenny, I think if we were looking at a house, as we usually do, and it was an early 19th century house that had been had a second story added to it in the late 19th century, that would still be interesting for us, but it would definitely affect the score in tending to lower it, I think. And I think you could maybe use the same logic here.
Right. So we kind of have to follow the methodology we have, I guess.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer, maybe I'll pose that back to you. Thoughts?
So I still kind of am following my own train of thought with that. And again, adding on to what was also said, that some of the changes were actually improvements. But I also see what you're saying about not going too high into the second category. So because of that, I would propose a 7.
Okay. There's a 7 on the floor. Does anybody want to agree or disagree?
I'd be happier with a 6, Sandra.
Okay.
So going into that category.
I could support a 6.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. Councillor Stoddard, do you think you could support a 6?
Just having another quick look.
Yeah, no problem.
I could support a 6.
Okay. Okay, it sounds like we're going to go with a 6 then. Thank you very much, everybody.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Of course. In terms of community value, Camp Hill Cemetery has historical, visual, and physical associations with the rest of the Commons land. This includes the Public Gardens National Historic Site, Wanderers Grounds, Bengal Lancers sites, Carlton, Victorian Streetscape, Power Cottage, and Victoria Park. HRM has also identified the cemetery's value through various plans and policies, including the center plan process and the Halifax Green Network Cultural Landscape Framework Study as part of the Citadel and Halifax Common Lands. The cemetery, along with the Halifax Public Gardens, has been identified as a historical open space in the center plan, and the forthcoming Halifax Common Master Plan also recognizes Camp Hill Cemetery for its heritage significance and supports registration of the property. There is a continuous green space connectivity between the Public Gardens, Wanderers Grounds, and Camp Hill Cemetery with a mature tree canopy and iron fencing. So as a large fenced-in block, but the pedestrian connectivity is an asset. Camp Hill Cemetery is an integral component of the overall Commons Green Space Network. Its importance is not only as a place of reflection and commemoration for those resting there, but also a place of horticultural appreciation, passive park uses, and a pedestrian connection between the Commons lands and adjacent neighborhoods. The design of grave markers and landscape design sheds a light on Halifax's past social history, our spiritual beliefs, and cultural values. The Camp Hill Cemetery connects Haligonians with its past, with several opportunities as well for interpretation throughout the cemetery. So for the significance community value of Camp Hill Cemetery, a score between 6 and 10 is recommended.
Okay, I will open the floor back up to the committee. Leslie, go right ahead.
I don't think there's much doubt of this being of historical and community value. It's kind of a central area and a common feature of Halifax. So, I mean, a 10 would seem appropriate to me.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leslie. Anybody else feelings about a 10?
This is Patrick. I'd support that.
Okay.
I agree as well, Sandra. Again, I don't see any reason not to give it a 10.
It's Jennifer. I would completely agree with that.
It's Luke, and I would agree with 10 as well.
Sandra, me as well.
Iona, I would agree as well. Thank you.
Great. Well, I think we all recognize the importance of this particular site. We're going to go with the 10 on that one as well. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. So our recommendation is should 1600 Summer Street, Halifax score 35 or more points on evaluation as a heritage site under the HRM Heritage Property Program, the Heritage Advisory Committee recommends that Regional Council set a date for a heritage hearing to consider the inclusion of the subject property in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality, and approve the request to include 1600 Summer Street, Halifax in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality as shown on map 1 as a municipal heritage area under the Heritage Property Act.
Okay, so the recommendation is here on the floor. I believe we just need somebody to move this, read it, and then seconder, and we'll take a vote.
Sandra again, do we have this final score on that property?
Oh, if you open the chat there, Sandra, down over, click the bottom button.
It was
there we are. Okay, good.
Yep, exactly. So the total score that we have is 66.
Excellent.
So whoever would like to make the movement and read the recommendation or read the movement. Then? Okay, great.
The Heritage Advisory Committee recommends that Regional Council 1 set a date for a heritage hearing to consider the inclusion of the subject property in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality, and 2 approve the request to include 1600 Summer Street, Halifax in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality as shown on map 1 as a municipal heritage area under the Heritage Property Act.
Seconder, please. Oh, Councilor Stoddard, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please turn your microphones on and say aye.
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 I,
Those contrary minded? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your presentation and thorough research.
Thank you.
Committee.
Okay, we're hopping back into our agenda. So we are now at item 6.2 on our agenda, case H00508, request to include 5500 English Street, Halifax in the Registry of Heritage Properties for the Halifax Regional Municipality. We are going to have a staff presentation from Jesse Morton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one moment here and I will try to get things up and running.
No problem.
Okay. How does this look for everyone? Can everybody see that?
It's good.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So as Madam Chair mentioned, this is the Heritage Case 508, which is a registration request for 5500 English Street in South End, Halifax. So this application was submitted by the property owner, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax. So this slide and the 2 images provide some context to the subject site and the surrounding area. You'll see that the subject site is located on the south side of English Street on the block bounded by Southland to the east and Russell Street to the west. So this property contains a 2-story dwelling that was constructed in 1823. It was underwent some significant modifications in the late 1800s to better reflect the Second Empire style. So staff would also note that this property became a provincial heritage property in 1984. It was assessed by HRM on 2 separate occasions back in the 70s and 80s, but it was not registered at the time. There were different scoring techniques and criteria in place at that time. And this will be the first time that it's evaluated using our current scoring criteria. And these, of course, are the current scoring criteria. Elizabeth provided an overview here, but basically there are 6 criteria, each with a maximum score. If the property scores 50 or more, the HAC makes a positive recommendation to Regional Council. The first scoring criteria is age. So this property was situated on the lands that were once known as Bland's Field. This was a largely undeveloped field that stretched from Barrington Street to Point Pleasant Park in the 1870s and early 1800s. In 1784, Jonathan Tremaine purchased a 50-acre estate on these lands. Jonathan Tremaine was a loyalist refugee and a rope maker, and as such he constructed a rope making factory along the eastern property lines along what is today South Land Street. I do want to note that there is a small typo in the staff report. It's correct in the research report, but Jonathan Sr. didn't construct this building, nor did his son Jonathan Jr. It was his other son John, so it was a little confusing lineage, I guess, in that family, but we'll be correcting that typo before this moves forward in the Form A. So his son John constructed the original building in 1823. At that time, it was a 1.5-story dwelling. It would be the right-hand portion of this image that he constructed. There were some later modifications at a later date, which we'll touch on here shortly. So given that the original building was constructed in 1823, staff are recommending a score of 20 points for age.
Okay, this is one of those ones that we don't have much discussion, but I will just put it on the floor and say, does everybody agree with the 20?
Yes, no disputes.
Excellent. Nobody wants to dispute the age of the building. Okay. We'll go with that. Thanks. Carry on, Jesse.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So moving on, next, staff are recommending that we evaluate this property as per its historical importance. So the property is connected to several local residents that played an important role in developing Halifax over the years. So the first, of course, being Jonathan Tremaine Sr. He developed the factory on site, had a successful business there, and he really started shaping this particular portion of English Street, and his son John built the dwelling. After the Tremaine's ownership, several other notable residents owned the property. Elizabeth mentioned Eno Collins. He owned the property as well. He was a merchant and banker and ship owner. Next, the Honorable John Bailey Bland owned the property. He was a lawyer from Newfoundland who moved to Halifax after being appointed the Commissioner of Revenue. Joseph Seaton, he owned the property later on. He was a local alderman, businessman, and he was the American consul to Halifax. And finally, there's Harry Chipman, who was the consul to the Austro-Hungarian Empire for a portion of time. Apologies there, not sure what happened. More recently, the property has been associated with the Universalist Church. So the church originally formed in 1837 and was incorporated in 1843. On the left here is a picture of their first building, which was on Herds Lane, kind of where the Scotia Square is located now. They subsequently constructed the Church of the Holy Redeemer on Brunswick Street, which is a municipally registered property. And then they moved to the subject site in 1960. So due to the property's relationship with the church and some prominent residents, staff are recommending a score of 11 to 15 points for importance.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. Everybody, I will open up the floor. Between 11 and 15 points is what is being recommended by staff. Okay.
Jenny, it's Cassandra. I'll say something.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to say something really controversial, so I'm going to apologize in advance for this. What I'm going to say is that I would recommend an 11, and I'm suggesting the low end because I feel like the future importance of churches is going to start to diminish. So that's a strong statement. So I would put it on 11 rather than 15 because of that. See if I get any bites on that.
I will open that up to the floor. Leslie, go right ahead.
I would agree, honestly, just because, yes, it's not one of these huge stone structures that, are sort of landmarks, and I think the historical significance of churches are in the decline. I agree.
Okay, so we have 2 votes for 11, I believe. Does anybody want to posit any other?
No, it's Sandra. I think it should be higher than that, just based on the historical ownership over the years. I don't look at the emphasis rather than this, we're saving a church. I'm looking at a structure that was built in 1823 and was lived in by a number of notable people. So I think it should be higher than 11 based on that.
This is Luke. I would agree with that opinion completely. I think it's important to note that the use as a church is just one of its historical uses. And also, while some committee members noted that the present importance of churches in society may be on the decline, I don't think that detracts from their historical importance. but like Sandra noted, there is a longer history to this property than just its use as a church. And I'm going to posit closer to the upper end of this scale. I'm going to pose a 14.
All right, Jennifer, go ahead.
Luke just basically said everything that I was thinking. So thank you for that. Yeah, I think that I understand where the other statements are coming from, but again, it's a usage. It's not a present value. And the usage has certainly holds a lot of historical importance within our city. So I'm with both those comments. I would go with a 14 or a 15.
Okay, so we have I think 3 votes for 14 and 2 for a 11. Who wants to be the tiebreaker? Or I guess that's not a tie, but does anybody else want to get in on the debate?
This is Patrick. I would go for a 13 or a 14, based more on the building itself, as an old rope works and residents from such an early period, and less so on its connection. I think the connection to the church is a little more tenuous
Right.
in this case, but yeah, 14 for sure.
Okay.
I was thrilled to hear it had a ballroom and a library, so you got to support that.
Okay, I think that we're pretty heavily on the 14 here. Does anybody want to make a last ditch argument for 11? No, we'll go with democracy. Okay, democracy it is. 14 for historical importance. Okay, go right ahead, Jesse. We can carry on.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to significance of architecture or builder, our research couldn't really uncover much information on this subject, so we're recommending a support of 0. Okay, this is one that we contended with last, maybe not at our last meeting, but at our previous meeting, when we don't know the builder. Unfortunately, the limitations of this evaluation don't allow us to, note their significance. So I'll posit that 0. Does anybody want to make any impassioned arguments on this?
This is Sandra. Maybe I misread the notes, but I thought it said the building was constructed by Tremaine.
So through you, Madam Chair, so John Tremaine, the son of Jonathan, he didn't construct it or design the building himself. He was the one that had it constructed, I guess. So maybe that clears that up a little bit.
Okay, is everybody okay to go with a 0 here?
Yep.
I suppose
Yeah.
are tied.
I know this committee hates to award 0s.
It's one of those things where it would be nice if we even had at least like a not applicable option, especially where it's the builder is unknown rather than the builder is known but not significant. It always seems unfair to give a 0 as a score to a question we don't know the answer to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I guess our hands are somewhat tied.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I think as as this system gets reviewed, staff will definitely be taking into account, I believe. Okay, we're going to go with a 0 for under significance of architect builder.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So moving on next to architectural merit, first focusing on the construction type. So this building was originally a 1.5-story dwelling with a pitched roof, a center side plane, and it was constructed using local rubble stones. So if you look on the picture here, you can see the rubble stone coursed walls, which are the stones themselves are roughly squared off. This is a picture of a small area on the southern facade, so it's interesting that you can still see the original construction, even though it has been covered by stucco over the years. So this particular type of construction was typically, it originated for more modest buildings, and today there are very few examples of this construction type remaining in Halifax. Staff would also note two other items. We believe that the foundation is likely rubble stone as well. However, it's covered, so we couldn't assess that. In the additions that were made in the late 1800s, those are wood additions, but staff could not verify the exact construction techniques of those additions. However, given that rubble stone construction is so rare, we would recommend a score between 7 and 10 points for construction type.
Okay, I will open this up to the floor.
It's Cassandra, just a point of clarification. Is the picture we're looking at, was the rubble stone purposely left showing just to show the contrast between a newer finish and the original, or is that damaged facade?
Right, so through you, Madam Chair, it's my understanding that this is just damaged, a small area where the parging over time has become damaged and would need to be replaced. So one thing that is possible through HRM once the property is registered is we do have an incentive program where some of this work could be funded partially by HRM. There's a cost sharing mechanism in place. So we didn't necessarily get into that level of detail with the property owner, so I don't know if that's their intent to wait until the outcome of this occurs or not, but I don't think it was intended to be any type of an interpretive portion of the building. I think it's just an area that needs some repair over time.
Madam Chair, I might just jump in. It's Aaron Murnahan, Principal Heritage Planner. Just a point of clarification as well. I don't think it's been mentioned by Jesse yet, but this is also a provincially registered heritage property and has been for over 20 years. And I believe the property is in receipt of a provincial conservation grant to fix the damage that you see before you on this photograph. Just a point of clarification for the committee.
Okay, that's good. I do believe that Jesse mentioned that at the very beginning, but it's possible that we glazed over it a little bit too quickly. So that is good to know that while this is very cool, it's not intended to remain visible. Okay, so I don't think we have any numbers on the floor here. Staff are recommending very rare / early example, 7 to 10 points. Anybody want to make a suggestion?
Okay, I'll suggest a 10 given its rarity. Luke. I don't know of very many other buildings of this construction type in Halifax.
Thanks, Luke. Anybody want to counter argument or agree with the 10? No? Okay, well, I guess we're going to go with the 10 then. Thanks, Luke.
Okay, so moving on to the architectural style. So when this building was originally constructed, I mentioned it was 1.5 stories tall. It was also originally designed in the Georgian style, which was fairly common in the 1800s. So in the 1890s, it was modified noticeably to convert it to the Second Empire style, which is again another popular style at the time the modifications occurred. So now you can see that the building really presents as a Second Empire dwelling. It has many features associated with this style, including the mansard roof, which is a defining feature of the style. The ironstone walls with stucco are also character defining, as is its asymmetric facade. There are pediment style dormers with paired windows and several other wooden windows that have heritage significance on the facade and sides as well. Moving a bit closer, you'll get a better view here of the pediment dormer, and you can also see one of the decorative entryways that was added to the property. So this building, due to the age at which the additions occurred, would be a late example of the style, but it does have some unique features as well. So with these considerations in mind, staff would recommend a score between 4 and 6 points for style. Okay, thanks, Jesse. I'll open that back up to the floor. Architectural merit, style, moderately rare, and / early, 4 to 6. What are people's thoughts?
Cassandra. I would give it a 6. Between the dormer style, the dental, architectural detail, the mansard roof as well is certainly characteristic of Halifax. So I would put it on the top end of that category, of that range rather.
This is
Okay.
I
Oh,
would-
sorry. Go ahead, Luke.
Sorry, I was just going to say I would agree with that. It's also 6, I would say. It's quite nice how it reads with both styles. You know, it's still kind of, you can still read the original Georgian proportions in the building. So it's quite nice that kind of there's a kind of historical continuity in the architectural style.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a 6 on the table.
I would agree 6, Sandra.
I agree as well, Leslie.
Okay, it sounds like we're gonna comfortably go with a 6 for this one. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So now we'll move on to architectural integrity. So just a brief background, we don't have a lot of notes or information on when the property was evaluated in the 1980s, but we do see that it didn't score especially high for its architectural integrity and style as well. But I think this picture here kind of helps kind of convey part of the building's story, that maybe it will help us on this criteria or not. But you can see on the western side of the building, you can see the original 1.5-story profile, which is quite neat. And you don't see that on all properties that have been modified over time. So we do see that the original rubble stone dwelling is still quite intact, even though some significant alterations did occur in the mid to late 1800s. So these additions and alterations kind of occurred in 2 groups. So Mr. Bland added the 1-story ballroom addition. So when he put this addition on, it really mimicked the appearance and replicated the architectural features of the original construction. He also added a 1-story library addition on the southwest corner of the building as well. And so then in the 1980s, during the Chipman tenure, he did some even more significant alterations. So the eastern addition was expanded. He added the mansard roof and enlarged some windows. And while we couldn't exactly pinpoint or verify due to historical research, we do believe that he probably added the decorative entryway on the facade as well. And aside from that, the only other notable exterior alteration are walls which have been covered in stucco. So I guess this is the most interesting, I think, or highly debated scoring recommendation for this particular application, because the exterior really hasn't been touched in 120 years, but before that there were some pretty significant alterations to the property. So the standards and guidelines that we use say that additions over time can become character defining, and really staff think that in this particular instance, these modifications have become character defining 120 to 130 years later. So we would recommend a score of 11 to 15 points for architectural integrity. However, there may be some debate on this particular topic.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. That is very interesting. That you can see the original shape of the 1.5-story home. Okay, I'll open this up to the floor. Anybody have any thoughts on largely unchanged? Understanding that it was changed between 1830, I think, was the original construction date, and the late 1800s, but has not been adjusted too much since. Everybody's thinking.
Okay, I'll jump in first. Salute again. I guess it's sort of what I said with regard to the last section as well, which is, you know, it reads really nicely, kind of as a historical record. I think this end wall is really fantastic, and I think there's a really strong case to be made that the changes that have occurred have become character defining in their own right. And as has been noted, those are largely unchanged. So I would support on the upper end of this 14 or 15.
Okay, great. Thank you, Luke. Anybody else want to?
Cassandra, I agree, Luke. I really liked the rubble stone showing underneath the purging. So I agree that the showing of the original 1.5 story is a really unique feature and it shows the history visually. So I'd agree with the 14 or 15.
Okay, great. We have a 14 or 15 on the floor. Anybody else want to contribute to that?
Sandra, I would agree 14.
Okay, thanks, Sandra.
It's Jennifer. I would go with a 14 also.
Thanks, Jennifer.
I agree as well, Leslie.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That sounds like we're going to go with a 14. Thank you, Jesse, for the interesting explanation.
Okay. So moving on to the final scoring category, which is relationship to the surrounding area. So this dwelling is unique and has an important relationship because it's really one of the oldest dwellings on English Street. It really represents the rural residential character that started emerging around 1820s when Bland's Field started being developed a bit more quickly. It has important visual and historical connections to other nearby properties like Thorndene here pictured on the right, and the Victorian streetscape that is also has frontage on English Street. So this particular property, it's a picture of English Street. The street contains numerous buildings that have a similar age, style, and design, and together it really kind of presents the building typology that started emerging in the 19th century. So with this consideration in mind, we would recommend here a score of 6 to 10 points.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. Anybody want to open up the conversation? Between 6 to 10 points is what staff are recommending.
It's Cassandra. I love this part of the city. Just love this part of the city. I would say 8, 9, 10, something high.
Thanks, Cassandra.
Hi, it's Iona. I would agree. These buildings are beautiful, and I do think it fits in with the Victorian style, and I would be on the higher end as well.
All right, thanks. Okay, we have 2 suggestions for higher end, let's say 9 or 10 at this point. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Sandra, I would go for 10.
10, okay. Thanks, Sandra.
And Luke, I would support a 10.
Okay.
Patrick, I would support a 10 as well.
This is Jennifer. I would support a 10 as well.
Okay. It sounds like we're going to go with the 10 then. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't have the exact score here. I can't see the chat since I'm sharing my screen, but I believe that the property would score 50 or more points. So if the clerk could verify that, and if that is the case, we would set a date for a heritage hearing and then recommend that regional council include the property in the registry for heritage property.
Yes, Jesse, the total score that we have here is 74 points. So we're well above the 50 mark.
Yeah, for sure. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to then ask for the motion to be put on the floor, please.
Sandra, I'd be happy to move that.
Sandra, do you have the agenda in front of you and you're able to read the motion?
Yes, I have it.
Oh, wonderful.
The Heritage Advisory Committee recommends that Regional Council 1 set a date for a heritage hearing to consider the inclusion of the subject property in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality, and 2, approve the request to include 5500 English Street, Halifax, in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality, as shown on Map 1, as a municipal heritage property under the Heritage Property Act.
Seconder, please.
I'll second. This is Luke.
Thanks, Luke. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Contrary minded? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, everybody, and thanks, Jesse, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our next item on the agenda, correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Currently, I do not see any here. Jill, are there any correspondence or petitions that were received?
There were no correspondence or petitions received by the municipal clerk.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to our next item then. Item 8, information items brought forward. I'm seeing none. Next is item 9, reports and discussion. We have reports from staff. 9.1.1 on our agenda is case 22257, the regional plan review, themes and directions presentation. I believe we have Kathleen Freilich back from our former heritage team. We're back. Happy to have you back, Kate. And she's going to be giving us a presentation. Oh, so hold on. Sorry. Aaron's hand is up as well.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I didn't want to bust in. I thought this might be an appropriate time just to interject really quickly and put a plug in for our public engagement meeting that's taking place tomorrow evening for the Downtown Heritage Conservation District. Would certainly encourage as many members of the Heritage Advisory Committee to attend that as possible. I'm going to drop a link to that virtual engagement meeting in the chat, and if folks who are able to make it at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening could do so, we'd be happy to have you. So sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Aaron. I'm sure there's lots of people here that'll be very interested to attend. Okay, without further ado, Katie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, good.
Perfect. Thank you. Nice to see everybody again. As Jenny mentioned, my name is Kathleen Freilich. I'm a planner with the regional planning team, and today I'm going to be introducing our work on the regional plan reviews, themes and directions report. So while I have the pleasure of presenting today, I wanted to quickly introduce our core team who've been working on this project, and several of whom are here to listen today. In addition, a project like the Regional Plan Review includes contributions from staff across the whole of our organization, and we just wanted to acknowledge their work as well. So we're here today because we're reviewing the regional plan, which means we're evaluating our land use policies and making sure that they represent the direction that council would like to set. We're contemplating how the municipality is physically organized and growing, and as part of our engagement program over the past month, we've been visiting all of the committees of council and advisory boards and internal staff teams, as well as stakeholders and the broader public. We invite everyone to visit our project website, which is our one-stop shop for all of the information on this plan review. The public survey has closed, but the website is still home to a wide variety of information and resources on the project. So just to take a quick step back, the regional plan is a strategic document. It was the first planning document adopted after amalgamation that provided a region-wide vision for land use. It was first adopted in 2006, and it provides a comprehensive outline of how growth and development should take place until 2031. The regional plan is powerful in guiding the municipality's planning and decision-making. As a high-level policy document, it does a few different things. First, the regional plan provides policy direction for planning at the regional and community level. So the regional plan sits above the community and secondary plan level documents and above our land use bylaws, and it sets region-wide policy intent. In addition, where something is important enough that it should apply everywhere, the regional plan policy can set up land use bylaw regulations that will be applied region-wide. This has been done most often for environmental regulations. So for example, setbacks from water courses, those policies sit in the regional plan, and then the regulations are rolled out into every community's land use bylaw. It can also establish the municipality's intent to do future research or study. So for example, the 2014 regional plan identified the need for a culture and heritage priorities plan, and it provided direction for what that plan should include. So this plan is now being completed as Sharing Our Stories. And finally, the regional plan identifies where there's need for different types of programming or opportunities to partner with community and other levels of government. So for plans like the regional plan, we try to do formal reviews roughly every 5 years. The first review was RP+5, and it was completed in 2014. And as you can see, we're aiming to complete this review in 2022. This would bring the plan to its end horizon of 2031. The Themes and Directions document was recently released, and it's our first major deliverable for this review. It outlines the key ideas and the planning issues that will be addressing through the review. It's a chance to step back and ask everyone, do we have this right? Are we headed in the right direction? The feedback we receive will help provide focus and direction for our work during the review. The Themes and Directions document includes 11 themes, and today I'm going to be focusing on theme 6, which is celebrating culture and heritage. If you're interested in any of these other topics, I would invite you to visit our website and read our material. So for theme 6, celebrating culture and heritage, this theme outlines how we will be reviewing culture and heritage policy in the regional plan. One of the biggest shifts since 2014 will be the adoption of the Culture and Heritage Priorities Plan. This plan, now known as Sharing Our Stories, will provide direction for the municipality to support culture, arts, and heritage with specific attention to celebrating underrepresented communities from across the municipality. As you are likely aware, work on Sharing Our Stories is ongoing. It's anticipated that it will be completed in winter of 2022, and this would coincide with some of the final phases of the regional plan review. So at that time, we will be able to incorporate the recommendations of Sharing Our Stories and use it to guide updates to the regional plan's culture and heritage policies. In addition to implementing Sharing Our Stories, the regional plan review will be looking at other tools to support the registration and conservation of heritage resources. One of the tools that I'm sure you're all familiar with is enabling owners of registered heritage properties to apply for development agreements. This tool is currently included in some of HRM's secondary planning strategies, and it incentivizes the registration of and conservation of heritage buildings by allowing owners to request additional development rights as long as the heritage character of the property is maintained. Through the regional plan review, we will be looking to establish a region-wide heritage development agreement policy that will allow heritage property owners across the municipality to access this tool. We will also be looking at how we identify and prioritize the creation of heritage conservation districts across the municipality. This work has been completed for the regional center as part of Center Plan, and now we're beginning to look at the important historical areas in our suburban and rural communities. The approach to the identification and prioritization of HCDs used in the regional center will be studied further as part of Sharing Our Stories, and the recommendations of that plan will be implemented through the regional plan. And finally, the regional plan review will be using the recommendations of Sharing Our Stories, as well as the Green Network Plan, which included the completion of the cultural landscape framework study, to direct how the municipality will work with residents and stakeholders to identify, prioritize, and protect potential cultural landscapes. This will allow the municipality to preserve these important landscapes while continuing to work with the province as they develop regulations to allow municipalities to formally designate them. So this is our key contact information. We invite you all to visit our website, www.shapeyourcityhalifax.ca/regional-plan. Send us an email at regionalplan@halifax.ca or give us a call at 902-233-2501. We're happy to take comments and questions from you today. We've also been suggesting that if committees would like to take the information that you've heard today, think about it a little bit more and submit a letter to us with your comments after the meeting, you're certainly welcome to do so. And individual committee members are also welcome to submit comments. Any comments or questions that we hear from you today will become part of the public record, and we're happy to stay involved with your committee as we move forward through the review process. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
Hey, thanks very much, Katie. Nice to have you back. I will open up the floor. Does anybody have any, firstly, clarifying questions, and then we can go into discussion if anybody feels the need. We are chatty today. We've typically needed longer as this committee to process information, though the center plan team came back a couple times. So that may be what we're experiencing here, and I'm sure that we can revisit this if people want to. Absolutely. Does anybody have anything? I'm gonna do one last call. Anybody have anything else that they wanted to ask or clarify or contribute?
This is Jennifer. I don't have anything to ask or clarify, but I just wanted to say that I think you did a really great job with your presentation. It was very well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll second that. Thanks so much for coming to present to us. This is an excellent presentation, very informative, and we definitely will be interested to be kept informed over the next couple months, year, however long it is that you're planning to be working on this. Awesome. Well, thanks so much again.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Okay. I believe we are towards the end of our meeting now. Item 9.2 is any items from members of the Heritage Advisory Committee. There are none on our agenda. Motions and discussions, there are none. Added items, there are also none. So the date of our next meeting will be August 25th, 2021. And I need a motion for adjournment, please.
I'll motion to adjourn. Leslie.
Oh, Jennifer, your hand was up there. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, I just offered to make the motion.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. No, we're all good. We have a motion, a movement, and a seconder. Okay, well, that concludes our meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your time this afternoon, and we will see you in a month.